I
Oh,
think they should be called sheer heart attack.
yeah, yeah, makes
So
sense. Hi everyone, it's James here. Welcome to another video, and today I'm once more joined by the great Richard McCook. Hi Richard, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, James, and yourself?
Yes, very well, thank you. Yes, we just had some technical difficulties getting Richard on the call. That has now all been seamlessly resolved. So today we're going to do a very simple idea, and it is to discuss our favorite title tracks from albums. And I'll just explain, Richard, because you don't know this, but this video idea came to me because of a comment I got on a video quite recently. It was my revisiting video on the Cool for Cats album by Squeeze. His name is Space Engineer Music. And the comment read as follows. I thought this was going to be a video on the song Cool for Cats. I hate it when albums are called after song titles. It creates confusion and difficulty in Googling. And that just got me thinking, yeah, title tracks are interesting. You get some records where you have a very obvious song, and sure enough, it is the title track. And then you get other albums that you'd think that would be the title track, and yet they just choose not to have one, essentially.
Um,
And a couple of the big, really big albums that I got first into my collection were things like Band on the Run by Wings, London Town by Wings. I mean, McCartney was quite fond of doing this, Venus and Mars. What's your take on this? Do you like it when an album is called after a title track, or is it really not something that you're that fussed about? I thought it was quite interesting that he seemed to have a very sort of strong opinion about it, but it was not something I've ever thought it's either bad or good. Just is what it is, isn't it?
that's exactly how I feel. It doesn't bother me in the slightest if
Mm.
it's a title track or not. Sometimes I think it's nice to have an album where the title it is not the title. There's no title track in there. But generally speaking, it doesn't bother me whatsoever. I
Mm.
don't like it whenever the title track is a real stinker on the album, though, the worst
Hmm.
song.
So, is there an example you can think of a stinker of a title track? I'm struggling to think of one.
Breaking Hearts by Elton John. Dreadful song.
Mm. Okay, fair enough. Okay, so do you want to get started as you are the guest, as you
Okay. Thank you very much.
mentioned in the last collaboration that we did?
Well, the first one, I don't think you will think I would have picked. That's UB40 Present Arms. That's the title track from their second album. Now, UB40, their first three albums I thought were absolutely brilliant. And this is around the time that they were associated more with things like the Specials and Madness and so forth before the Labor of Love made them massively successful and they went down a really, really pop uh, sort of road with vibes of reggae. This is reggae, and one of the things I will say about early UB40 is the saxophone. The saxophone tends to drive the melody, and this is a case with Present Arms. It's a song about war, basically, and signing up, and the heartbreak of the mother, and getting worried about her son getting killed in war. But it's a brilliant, brilliant opening track, and it's an excellent title track, really. So UB40. Present Arms, my number 10.
Yeah, I didn't see that one coming. I've never gone beyond a greatest hits CD with UB40, so yeah, that's a band that I don't know too much about, but good stuff. That's a good one. Okay, well, my first one, I don't think you will probably have. Now, I've picked this one because I think this is a classic example of where a title track is it just absolutely is the title track in the sense that I think the album is a concept album, and therefore the title track sets up the concepts, and therefore it is the title track. So that, I suppose you describe, Band on the Run is sort of like that. That's the concept of the album, and that's the title track. This is one that is it's reasonably new to me in terms of being a favorite song, but it's one that I just really, really like, and it's Alice Cooper and Welcome to My Nightmare. Do you know this one?
No, I only know is it Muscle of Love and Billion Dollar Babies. Those are the only two Alice Cooper albums I'm familiar with.
Okay, so this is his first solo album. So this is the first one he did without the band. It's produced by Bob Ezrin, and I assume it's some kind of concept album. It's just that it's got that very schlocky kind of, it's just you can see on the back all the spiders, and it's just
Mhm.
sort of classic sort of horror film. And the opening song, "Welcome to My Nightmare," it's a really, really great track. There's something of the night about it. It sounds like something from a classic old 1970s sort of horror film or something. It's got a real great sort of groove to it, really great atmosphere, and I just love his vocal style, like really gritty, raw kind of sound that he gets, and it just sets up that first side really well. And as I said, maybe it's a concept album. If it is, I'm not entirely sure what the concept is, but it does seem to set it up really well. So I'd have that as my first choice, number 10. Alice, welcome
Oh,
to my
right.
nightmare.
Have you heard the Welcome to My Nightmare too?
I haven't actually. No, I haven't.
Well, my second choice is Graham Parker and the Rumor, Three Chords Good. Now, this was 2012, so it's the Rumor sort of come back together to record this album. And it's an okay album. It's an average album. It's nothing brilliant, but the title track is absolutely wonderful. And it's basically a song about writing songs. But it's very, very Bob Dylan-y, and there is no chorus to this. But at the end of, I think it's the third verse, you get a little sort of instrumental break with the Hammond organ, the guitar, and the bass, and it just sounds so good. And that only happens twice, but it is like a narrative song, and it's absolutely brilliant. And again, from an okay album, but three chords good. Put it this way, if I ever do a Graham Parker playlist, the song's always included. So
I can see from the cover of that record that they're not particularly trying to appeal to the young girls in the audience, are they?
the, they're not Victor Meldrew and his mates.
Right. Okay. Good stuff. Okay. So number nine. Okay. So that one I've not heard that one, so I need to check that one out. That's good. That'll give me something to listen to. So the next one, I think this is one that you might have. He's a favorite artist of yours, and this is a really great song from a really great album. It's one I thought of quite late in the day. Actually, it came to me quite late in the day, but I'm going to go with it. I'm going to go with the Psychomodo by almost said Graham Parker then by Steve Harley and Cockney Rebel. um, so this is just classic early Cockney Rebel. It's got that driving violin part and the sort of strange little tinkly keyboards and a really strange lyric that you can't really work out what the hell he's singing about. And I just think it's just really quirky and different. And I'm pleased that it is the title of the album because I think the Psychomodo is just a really, really great album title. And so that one is one which yeah, I think that one definitely belonged in the list. So there we go.
I
Steve.
never, I never actually thought of that one, but that's a
Mm,
really, really good choice. That's one of the songs I think like Prologue and Twilight has to be grouped together with Sweet Dreams. So it is the
okay.
first one,
Yeah.
but great choice. Well, my number eight, and it's The Rose of England from Nick Lowe, and I'm not too sure what this is about. I think it's really just about patriotism, really. There's a little bit of war involved in it. I just think it's so catchy. It's not my favorite track off this, but it would be in my top three. And Graham Parker actually does a very good version of this as well. But this guy is so underrated, as is Graham Parker. And you think it's very, very bouncy, the song. It is about patriotism, but it's got a bouncy feel to it, and you wouldn't really realize that that's what it's about. If you see what I mean, it's catchy pop music, and I love it. A really nice piano tinkle through the whole song as well. So Nick Lowe and the Rose of England.
What year did that album come out?
1985.
Right.
1980.
Okay. So again, that's not one I know. I've got quite a few Nick
That
Lowe records, but I don't go as far as 85, I don't think, with him. So
that's the second of his Cowboy Outfit albums. The first one was just called Cowboy Outfit and had Half a Boy and Half a Man on it. That one's got a re-recorded version of I Knew the Bride.
yeah, so I do have that one. That might be the latest record I've got actually in the collection.
And he
Might
does a
be.
very good
Yeah.
version of Elvis Costello's Indoor Fireworks
All right,
on it.
great stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, yeah. Talking of Costello, um, I I just meant to mention there's a couple of interesting things with this where you think that an album's got a title track, and then you realise that it's not actually a title track. It's just a lyric which comes up. Because
Right.
I nearly had King of America, and
Yeah.
then I realised that the opening track, which contains that lyric, is not called King of America. It's called Is It His Brilliant Mistake?
Right. Yes, it
Yeah.
is.
And then that got me thinking of Flowers in the Dirt by Paul McCartney as well, which again
Yeah.
comes up in a lyric, but it's not actually the title track. It's so yeah, I'm sure there's more examples of that, but anyway, that nearly foxed me. nearly made a fool of myself on camera with that. But I caught myself just in time. Okay, so the next one, I don't think you're a fan of this guy. I don't think I've ever seen you show one of his records. I could be mistaken. But my next one, number eight, I'm going to go
No,
with Warren Zevon. Zevon? Is it Zevon or Zephon?
Zevon.
It's like Bowie and Bowie, isn't it? It
It's
is
Bowie.
Zevon.
It's not Bowie. It's Bowie.
Excitable Boy, which I just think is an absolutely brilliant song. It's a short song. It's very piano led. It's got this real pumping piano driving rhythm. And the lyric, unless you listen to the lyric, you probably miss the fact that it's just a really, really disturbing song. It's a song about a young boy who basically grows up to be a psychopath and he ends up killing a girl and he digs up her bones and makes a cage out of her bones in the final verse. But all the way through his childhood, you can see that he's doing these really awful things, just gradually, incrementally building up to this heinous crime. And
Mhm.
I can see from your face that you're thinking, God, that's not the kind of song I'd like to listen to. But the genius of the song is that it's so musically uplifting and catchy. And
Mhm.
like I said, unless you actually, pay attention to the lyrics, you'd actually miss that. And I just love that kind of thing. My favorite line in the song, he goes to the cinema when he's a sort of youngish boy or a teenager, and he's there's a line in it. He bites the usherette's ankles in the dark after the lights go out for the film. And each time he does something horrendous, the chorus keeps coming back in. Oh, they just say he's an excitable boy. And the idea being that all through his life, they just keep trying to write these things off. It's just saying, oh, he's just an excitable boy. He's just an excitable boy. And then, eventually he just commits this absolutely heinous crime. God knows where the idea for that song came from. It's one of those classic things, like a real dark kind of psychological idea for a song. And yeah, absolutely brilliant. So,
Just as you were saying that, and why I was smiling, I was looking at the cover. I thought, oh my God, he has got a bit of a Jeffrey Dahmer look about him. So that's a
I
terrible
wonder,
thing to say, by the way.
I wonder if that was deliberate. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's not much like anything else I've heard him do. I need to delve more deeply into his catalogue actually, because
I only know the one song, that werewolf thing going on.
yeah, I know
I don't like it.
that really annoys me as well. That track, it's just overplayed, really, I
Yeah.
think.
Well, I'm afraid for my number seven, I'm going to have to show a CD.
Okay.
It's a band I did a ranking of a few weeks ago, and it's from 2001, and it's Echo and the Bunnymen, Flowers. And this is the best song off this album. This is a really good album. Let me tell you, James, you see the 2000, between 2000 and 2010, Echo and the Bunnymen for me now can do no wrong.
Mm.
It's probably my favorite period. Flowers is an absolutely gorgeous acoustic song. It's slow to mid-paced, but in the background of the verses, you hear little bits of lead guitar going on by Will Sargent, but then that lead guitar gets louder during the most gorgeous chorus out, sung by obviously Ian McCulloch. It's an absolutely beautiful, beautiful song. And if any of the songs I'm going to ask you to play, after this, it would be Flowers by Echo and the Bunnymen. Absolutely love it. And I love that cover as well.
Mm.
Very Edwardian or Victorian or whatever. But yeah, brilliant. So Flowers is my number seven.
Well, amazingly, that's a record I've not even heard of. I've never even heard of that album, so that's
Yeah.
definitely one for me to check out. I only really know maybe the first couple of Echo and the Bunnymen records. They were not a band I was into back in the day, to use the old cliche, and I'm really behind on catching up with them. So that's a nice, interesting one. Good,
Yeah.
excellent. So far we haven't crossed over at all,
Nope.
as expected. Really, I didn't think that we would. This next one, my number seven. So what this one is, I originally had a different song by this artist, and I was quite happy with the choice, but then I thought, no, I'm gonna swap it. I'm gonna put something in which is less well known and less famous and a bit less obvious. But it's a song which I just think is really underrated from an album which is really underrated. So I nearly picked Graceland by Paul Simon. Then I
Mm.
thought of this record, one I've always been really fond of. I've got certain emotional attachments to this record based around various things that happened in my life, which I won't go into now. But most of the music on this record has a very sort of sharp emotional reaction. I get a strong emotional reaction when I hear it. And I just think the title track on this, which is the final song on the album, and that's something actually which we've not mentioned yet, the idea of a title track. Where does it fall on the record? You get somewhere it's the opening track, which you'd think that's the most obvious place to put it sometimes. And then you get these albums which end with the title track, Cool for Cats being the obvious one. And this is the final song on the record, and it just brings it to just a really great conclusion. It's just a really beautiful melodic song with obviously you've got the great Brazilian drumming in there. I don't know what the lyric is about. It's just that classic Paul Simon stream of consciousness, but it's just absolutely beautiful. I streamed it this morning when I was getting the Palo Records ready for the video, and I just, listened to it 3 times in a row. It just absolutely floors me how good it is. And as I said, it does tend to get overshadowed by Graceland, so I thought I would have that.
That's a very good choice. I will admit, whenever I first bought that album when it came out, I was slightly disappointed in it because it is a rhythmic album,
Yeah,
but that album has aged so well, I think. I think it's
it
actually
has.
aged better than Graceland,
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
And if I was to play one of them now, I would go to Rhythm of the Saints.
Yeah,
So,
good stuff.
okay, now we're getting into a real McCookie music territory here. Okay, so none of these should be a surprise. And my
Okay.
number six is The Slider by
Yeah.
T-Rex. Now, it's not my favorite because there's two classic singles off this, and Rabbit Fighter's a massive single or a song as well. But this is such a raunchy, gritty, dirty sounding record. And the backing vocals by Flo and Eddie, the two guys from the Turtles, are absolutely brilliant. This just is it's a slow tape track, but as I say, it is gritty and raunchy, and I love it. And it was actually planned to be a B-side of another track off here called Chariot Jugal, but the Children of the Revolution hadn't been sort of finished. And by the time they were going to release it, Children of the Revolution had been finished, so it was scrapped. But the
Mhm.
Slider for me, an absolutely brilliant track from one of Mark Bolan's best albums.
That's interesting because as I said, I did predict or try to predict some of the ones you were going to show, and that one actually didn't come into my head. There were various other artists that I thought you were going to show, and they still might be looking in the list to be fair, but that's not one I saw coming, so that's interesting. Okay, well, my number six, a similar period in music, and this is one that I've talked about before when we did a video together. I think we did the video on your channel, and the video that we did on this band, I've got a feeling I put this at number one of my favorite 10 album tracks by them. I think so anyway. I couldn't leave it off. El Dorado by ELO from the album by the same name. Now then, strictly speaking, the album is called El Dorado, a symphony by the Electric Light Orchestra, and this track is just called El Dorado. So does that count? I think it probably does. So this was the B-side of Wild West Hero, which came out maybe 3 years later. That was when I first heard it. And the song, I mean, it's a great song, but when you hear it in the context of the record, when you hear it as the grand finale or nearly the grand finale, because you've got the El Dorado finale at the end, which has got
Mm.
this huge symphonic thing. I just love the epic quality of it. Shivers up the spine. It's just one of Jeff Lynne's great sort of early masterpieces, I think, before he got too, I say too radio friendly. Obviously, those radio friendly hits that he did in the late 70s were great, but this is when he was still dallying with the progressive thing. And this
Mhm.
is maybe the final proper sort of proggy album they did before he really started to narrow things down and go into that very sort of radio friendly direction with Face the Music afterwards. In a way, a bit of a grand finale for him. It has the strings, it has the choirs, it has the big over the top, sort of almost like sort of Hollywood production. It reminds me of something from The Wizard of Oz or something, appropriately with the cover. Just very big, very over the top, very grandiose. It's got a bit of a story behind it and great sort of Roy Orbison-esque vocal style that he does in it. So I had to have it really, El Dorado.
I considered that actually myself. Well, we
Yeah.
sort of have matched, by the way, because my number five, you've already shown the artist, but you've shown a different album.
Intriguing.
Talked about you've talked about another one of his albums, and it's not it either. I'm going for Paul Simon's Hearts and Bones, which I think is by far the best track off this. Well, not by far, but it is the best, and it's him back on the acoustic guitar again. After One Trick Pony, which is all electric piano type music, this is could also or could almost fit on his debut album or even There Goes Rhyme Simon. Absolutely beautiful song. It's about 5 minutes long as well, second track on the album. And it's a hint back to what he used to be doing. And then obviously after this was not successful at all for some reason. I don't understand why. It does have a couple of clunkers on it, I must admit. And I never liked, well, Cars for Cars is flipping dreadful.
Mm,
And I never liked the late great Johnny Ace, which is the most untuneful song ever. But that's just me.
mm,
But Hearts and Bones itself, absolutely beautiful song from a pretty good album. So it's
mm.
my number five.
Yeah, I did not see that one coming at all. It was going to be a Simon and Garfunkel record originally, wasn't it? And then things
Yes,
went
that's correct. Yeah.
tits up.
And it sounds like one as well, the Hearts and Bones song. It sounds like an America type track.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
Good stuff. Okay, so we've crossed over on on one artist now, but we've yet to cross over
Mhm.
on a record. Good stuff. Right. My next one I know you won't have because I don't think you've got any records by him at all, as far as I know. One of my favorite artists of all time. This I think is probably his best album. When I ranked his albums a while ago, I think I did put it at number one. And it is the title track from Thomas Dolby and his song The Flat Earth. Have you heard
Mhm.
this one?
Yeah.
So this one, it's just so achingly beautiful. It starts out, it's really atmospheric. It's got all these lovely, strange, ethereal sound effects, and it's just got this great sort of mournful quality to it. Very filmic, actually, very soundtracky. And the whole album is like that, really. It's a kind of dark soundtrack with elements of world music. It's a really interesting record. He gets so pigeonholed as a kind of boffin mad professor, kind of early 80s techno guy because of the well, really it's that main single he did, She Blinded Me with Science, which is a good
Oh,
single, but it's it's like Cool for Cat Squeeze again. It's essentially it's a novelty song at the end of the day. And this record has another novelty song on it, unfortunately. It has Hyperactive, which sticks out like a sore thumb, really. Um,
number.
yeah, because the rest of the record is really nothing like that. It's not quirky, it's not zany, it's quite measured, it's quite moody. And The Flat Earth is the second track on side one, which is an interesting place to find it. I think it's a really great title for an album. Um, and the cover's quite interesting. I think it's him meant to be panning for gold, maybe on the cover. I'm not entirely sure. But just a really, really great album. That's the one that I'll recommend you to listen to. I'll listen to Flowers by Echo and the Bunnymen. You ever listen to The Flat Earth by Thomas Dolby because it really is an exceptionally great piece of production, really, as well as a great song. So had to have a bit of Dolby in there, and that's my number five.
Very good. Well, my number four, and you probably guessed I would have this, Elton John's Captain Fantastic and the Brown Dirt Cowboy.
Okay, so
And
I thought you'd have a different Elton John one.
did you?
Mm.
Which one do you think?
I thought you'd have Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
That was a single though.
Of
So,
course.
although I do love Someone Saved My Life Tonight, I still think Captain Fantastic is my favorite track off this. And I always like an Elton John song from the 70s that starts with an acoustic guitar rather than a piano, because
Mm.
it's something completely different and it just tells the story of Elton and Bernie's younger years trying to make ends meet, and writing songs for anybody that would take them and so forth. But a really, really brilliant song from a brilliant album. And it's got a really good rocky chorus as well, but not too rocky. It rocks gently. So Captain Fantastic's my number four.
Yeah, that's what I need to go back to again. In fact, I need to revisit all my Elton records. They've been gathering dust for a little while now. I need to go back to them. Good stuff. Okay, so we're getting into top four now. Now, this one, my favorite artist of all time, probably solo artist of all time. I've already said that I decided not to go with London Town, which I do love, sort of mostly for sentimental reasons, maybe. I don't know how great a song it is. I think it's good, but it's sort of that one is the nostalgia pick for me. Band on the Run is overplayed, which is why I didn't put it in. So what's left? Can you guess? The great Paul McCartney title track that I
Tug
haven't
of
mentioned.
War. Tug of War.
Yeah, well done. Yeah, yeah. I just think this is an outstanding track. I really do. But it's just so majestic. I just love the way it builds up gradually. It opens with his absolutely beautiful vocal. I mean, he was at the top of his game, I think, at this period,
Mhm.
vocally. Coming out of Wings, he just sounds tremendous. And the George Martin production, the way it marries seamlessly with his songwriting, takes you straight back into the heart of all those great Beatles records. The military drums, the big swelling strings at the end. It's just absolutely brilliant, and it's a track which I think should be better known. I think back in the day, this record was very highly regarded and it was critically received, very well. But I think in more recent times, this album has rather fallen off people's radars, and it's not one that gets talked about anymore, other than by the fans. So people will talk about McCartney, Ram. They'll talk about Flaming Pie is a big one that comes up.
Mhm.
I think Tug of War, for some reason, Tug of War has slipped. It's slipped down. I don't really know why, because I do think it's a really strong record, and I think it's just an absolutely magisterial title track.
I don't think it has an 80s sound. A lot of people say it sounds of the 80s. It does not. It's got a really good George Martin production. But what I will say is it would Tug of War, along with Wanderlust of that, would most likely get into my top 20 McCartney songs of all time, including the Beatles.
Yeah, me
It's
too.
absolutely brilliant. And I had it on my list before I scrapped it because it was a single. It only got to number 50 something, but it still was a
Yeah.
single.
Yeah, I mean, that's
So,
amazing that it got to number 50 something. I mean, what on earth was going on there?
yeah, I know.
Um, and, I mean, the record finishes with Ebony and Ivory, which was a huge hit single. And I'm quite fond of Ebony and Ivory, but it's got that really annoying sort of
Mm.
radio friendly quality to it, which Tug of War doesn't. It's maybe not a great single choice. Perhaps that was the problem with it. But anyway, really great album track, really great title track.
Excellent choice.
Okay, so before we get into our top three, we're going to do a little bonus round, and this is where Richard and I have each picked a handful of albums which do not have title tracks, but we think they would have been improved, or at least they would have been good with album tracks as title songs. So I'll do mine, Richard. I'll whiz through
Yeah.
mine, and then we'll whiz through yours. So this first one, I'm going to show the CD of Kate Bush and Never Forever, which I think is a bit of a wishy-washy title.
Mm.
Um, I think a really good name for this album would have been The Wedding List, which is my favorite song on the album. And also, I quite like the idea of an album being called The Wedding List. And it's almost like each song is an item on the wedding list. I can see
Yeah.
you're not entirely convinced by that, but never mind. Next one. Squeeze Argy Bargy. I think this would have been quite funny if they called it Wrong Side of the Moon. I don't think it would have worked because I think it would have been seen as a kind of
No.
cheeky, it would have been a complete disaster in terms of, however, I think it would have been quite funny and quite cheeky to call it that. I can imagine a kind
I
of,
love the title Archie Bargy. I
yeah, I
love it.
do too. I do
And
too.
I
But
love some people not being able to pronounce it, calling it Argy Bargy,
yeah,
which
I've even heard some Americans calling it our guy, bar guy. Um, this, I think, was a lost opportunity. The Difford and
Yeah.
Tilbrook album, the two guys from Squeeze, there's a great track on side one called Picking Up the Pieces.
Hmm.
And I've always thought, given that this was them trying to pick up the pieces of their career, having, broken Squeeze up and trying to launch themselves back into the fray as a duo, that would have been quite a nice idea. And rather than just calling the album Difford and Tilbrook, which is just really nothingy, isn't it? It's sort of an attempt
Hmm.
to do Hall and Oates, I think, but it didn't really work. And the final one I've got, this is a record I've been enjoying again recently because I picked up the CD a while ago, Aftermath by the Stones. I was never sure about the title Aftermath. It's a good word, but I'm just not sure it really sums up where the Stones were at this point in their career. Aftermath, you think of it as being, after the main event, whereas this, they were still sort of building up. So, anyway, there's a great song title. The second to last track is just called Take It or Leave It, which I just think is
Hmm.
a really good attitudey, swaggery kind of thing. You can just really imagine it with that artwork, the Stones, 1960, was it 67, something like that, was it?
That was 66.
66, yeah. Take it or leave it.
Yeah.
So yeah, anyway, that's my four. So
Unfortunately, with that one, it's a good title, but the song itself is the
is
clunker on the album. Okay, I'm going to have a bit heavyweight here,
okay.
and this may surprise you.
Cool.
You're always low.
Yeah.
I think this should have been called A New Career and a New Town because
That's
there
the
was no.
song that immediately sprung to mind when you said it. Yeah.
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 And I would have got rid of the cover as well. I know a lot of people love this cover, but
Mm.
it's the second still from The Man Who Fell to Earth for a Bowie album. Station's a Station used one. And I always like a picture of the artist to be within that year that the album is released.
Mm.
I've never been that keen on the Orangey, but it's a great album. Now, James, if you use an inhaler, you better get it out
Okay.
because I
Oh,
think this should have been called In the Lap of the Gods. I would have
okay.
got rid of the cover as well.
Hmm.
You know, that sweaty homoerotic feel. I would have liked a Moody Blues type big grand cover, and I just don't think that really works. It doesn't tell you what's inside the album.
Hmm.
However,
This might be one that I thought of doing.
I
Oh,
think this should be called Sheer Heart Attack.
yeah, yeah. Makes
So they
sense.
should have, and because the title track's on it, keep the cover. If you see one of those things going towards you, you are going to have a heart attack. Although News of the World is a good title for this because it's an invasion of the world by aliens or whatever, but I would have called this one Sheer Heart Attack, and I've only got the three, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, I nearly put in Queen 2 actually, and suggested Ogre Battle for that,
Mm, yeah.
but wasn't sure. Anyway, great fun. And yeah, right. So back to the action. So we're at number three. You're number three, I
Yeah.
think, isn't it? Yeah, go ahead.
I I think you will probably guess two of these, maybe
Okay.
three.
Right, I
The,
didn't think of that one. I didn't think of that.
the Queen is Dead is an absolutely brilliant track. The guitars by Johnny Marr are great, but even better is the bass by Andy Rourke. And even better than that is Morrissey's lyrics. And if I can remember, so I broke into the palace with a sponge and rusty spanner. She says, I know you and you cannot sing. Hey, that's nothing. You should hear me play piano. It's
Mm,
just hilarious. And it is the best track off here, along with The Boy with a Thorn in the Side, which I have to say, but
mm.
that's my number three.
Yeah, I listened to that album again recently, actually. I streamed it while I was out walking. It is a really great album, you're right. But I didn't see that coming, actually. There's still a couple that I thought you would have had and you haven't had, but maybe you're avoiding them for the same reason I avoided things like Band on the
No, there's
Run
still
and
two to go. Still two to go.
okay, well, my number three, I'm pretty sure you're not going to have it. I'm certain that you're not going to have it. I couldn't leave this one off because I just think it's such an epic title track. I mean, everybody talks about it, but I think everybody's right to mention it. This is Television and Marquee Moon. Have you heard the title track of this?
I haven't. I've actually used to own their second album. Is it Adventure, the orangey colored or the red colored one?
All right, okay.
But I never liked it when I got rid of it. And I was a kid I was a teenager. I've never heard that album.
Yeah, I mean the title track Marquee Moon, I think it's about 12 minutes and on paper it shouldn't really work because it's a song, but then it just goes into this really, really long guitar solo.
Mm,
And that shouldn't really work, really. I can see from your face, it's like, no, no, I don't like the sound of that. But it's hard to describe it. It's not a guitar solo. It's not like sort of David Gilmour, where you're just endlessly waiting for him to finish
mm,
playing.
mm,
The guitars have got this real kind of it's a punk 12-minute guitar solo, if you imagine that. I can't describe it any better. I think it was influenced by I think maybe it was influenced by jazz. It's a strange track. It's punky with a bit of a jazz sensibility. It's just very spectacular. And I mean, the problem with it is that it ends side one, and it really just brings the curtain down on the album. You turn it over, and side two's all right, but you don't really. I don't understand why they did that. To call the album Marquee Moon and then to have a really spectacular song and then not
mhm.
have it at the end of the album doesn't make sense to me. But anyway, yeah, I had to have this one on because I think it's a real epic and it's kind of known as being a great track and it's one that I always loved back in the day. This album really it is a great album, but I think it's largely off the back of that one song, the title track, Marquee Moon. So I thought I'd have it high.
Well, I'm so pleased you didn't pick that for me to play whenever
No.
you mentioned the words jazz and huge big guitars. Well, my number
Yeah,
two, I think,
good point. Yeah.
my number two, I think, you know, that's the man who sold the world.
No, it's still not the one I thought you were going to have.
I'd say this is my favorite track off this album, and I wanted to show this cover. It's my favorite cover. It's
Yeah.
the cover I grew up with whenever I bought this album way back in 1981. Now, there's been a few cover versions of this. I love Lulu's version, which is basically a David Bowie and the Pinups band
Hmm.
playing the whole thing, and Lulu does the vocals, and it was recorded during Pinups. And I also love Midge Ure's a version as well, which featured on the Party Party soundtrack. The one I don't like is Nirvana, and I think the reason being is it copies this too much, really. it sounds very, very similar. I don't like Kurt Cobain's voice, but this is a great track. I've always loved. It's almost like the thimble on the washboard sound that goes through this, and the guitar is great. It's very, very dark. It's absolutely wonderful track,
Mm.
and I very, very nearly had this at my number one because it is one of my all-time favorite David Bowie songs. So, The Man Who Sold the World is number two.
Interesting. Well, I've never heard the Lulu version, and I'm not entirely sure I've heard the Mijur version, so I will listen to those as well. That'll be my extra little bit of homework. Yeah. Okay, cool. Good stuff. All right. Well, my number two, I don't think you will have this one. You do like the band, but not as much as me. This is a band, this is a period of their career which I don't think you're too fond of, and this is very topical, and I'm going to have it in the list. Surf's Up from the album name of the same name, title track. What can I say about this? Just an absolutely beautiful, ethereal hymn, really. My understanding is that Carl Wilson pieced it together after the event. I think Brian had tried to record it for the Smile album and it hadn't really worked out. And then Carl went into the studio. I think he performed part of it and he managed to somehow segue it into Brian's original version. But it's just absolutely beautiful. It's just a timeless piece of wonder, really. And the final sort of minute or so with the incredible fade out with those harmony vocals, it just absolutely, it's just a completely sublime moment, I think, in pop music. I know it sounds a bit sort of like hyperbole, but I do genuinely think it's just a really beautiful. And I think objectively, if I was going to be totally objective, this would be my number one. The reason I'm not putting it number one is that the number one track I've got is is a song which starts the album and Surfs Up finishes the record. And I think my number one pick, as you'll see in a minute, I think of all these picks, it's the one that gets the record started in a way that is
Yeah.
completely, totally definitive. But had to have Surfs Up, had to have it high on the list. So there we go. Beach Boys, rest in peace, Brian Wilson.
Yeah. No, I have no problem with that at all. I think it's a great track. I really do.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of the early 70s Beach Boys. I think you could get a really, really good compilation out of that
Hmm.
period. And that's it. Well, my number one is I've gone with my heart rather than my head.
Hmm. So
If I had one,
this is the one that I might still, because I've got one in my head for you, but
I don't think so.
okay.
But my head said it should have been the man who sold the world, but my heart has to go to. Are you ready for this?
Yeah,
Or, oh, have
that's
you
the one
got
that
it?
I predicted. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent,
Yeah.
excellent, excellent. Arrival. It's the last
Yeah.
track in the album, and to me, every ABBA show should have opened with this. It's an instrumental, although the girls are doing their ahs and all the rest of it. They weren't humming, they were ahing, basically.
Mm,
And I think I can just picture them, the two boys coming on to start the music, and then the spotlight. As soon as they halfway through start the ahs going on the girls, and the whole place going wild. I think it's one of the best melodies ever written,
mhm,
and it's one of my all-time favorite ABBA tracks. I can't really say songs.
mm.
Now it has had lyrics. Frida did a lyric on the song "Time" that she did with one of your favorite artists, B.A. Robertson, and
I'm not sure I'll go that far, Richard, but
one of your favorites. And it's
yeah,
actually quite good. I think it's
yeah.
from a film or a stage play, Abba Dabba Doo or something like that there. And then Sarah Brightman
Mm,
did a version with different lyrics, and it's beautiful as well. The song itself, the music itself is gorgeous, and that's why ABBA
mm.
arrived. It's my number one.
Yeah, to be honest with you, that was the first one I thought of for you.
Oh, was it? All right.
When I pitched the idea, I thought, yeah, ABBA Arrival is likely to be. I'm not sure if I predicted it top, but I had a very strong sense it would be in there. Was there not a version done by Mike Oldfield?
Yes, and that's
Yeah,
brilliant. Well, from QE2.
yeah, that's right.
I
That's
will
right.
say that QE2, the track itself, was on the list,
Ah, okay.
and it was taken off for Nick Lowe's The Rose Ringman.
Right. Okay. So with number one, my number one, and this one is such a mighty beast of a title track. I'm going to put it at number one.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just does everything you want an opening title track to do. It ties in perfectly with the
Mm,
Demon's Tail and the horns, and it just totally sets the tone for the album from the opening guitar riff that comes in. Bon Scott's vocal is wild, isn't it? It's just he sounds totally feral, throat ripping intensity. And when the band all pile in, and that chorus, back in the day when I was, sort of in my teens, going to rock clubs, it was the ultimate dance floor filler in terms of
mm,
a rock crowd or a rock audience, and it just gets the album off to such a great start. And side one, I mean, it just totally lays down the gauntlet, and all the other tracks come rushing out of the gate after it. So I
mm,
thought, why not? Let's have that at number one,
mm.
the greatest opening track to it. Well, at least to a hard rock album of all time. I suppose you could make a case for Hell's Bells as well, but
Well, what I will say is, whenever you said about is a good floor filler, it's a good floor filler for the non-dancers who all just go up and start headbanging.
exactly. Yeah, 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 yeah. The sort of male the male contingent of the room, shall we say,
Exactly.
all clutching pints of lager and
In plastic
yeah, well,
glasses.
that's right. It's great that you had ABBA at number one and I had AC/DC at number one. Those two bands actually sit next to each other on my
Brilliant.
shelf, which is quite
Yeah.
nice. Yeah, yeah, that's good. Really good.
Really
Great stuff. Thanks, Richard. That was great fun. Excellent
enjoyed it.
picks.
Really enjoyed it.
Yeah, thanks for coming along. So yeah, viewers, let us know. Do you have any favorite title tracks? Any that we've missed? Any that we've included that you're completely disgusted with? And
Mhm.
also let us know if you can think of any albums which were not named after a song that you think should have been. Do leave those suggestions in the comments as well. So I will take my leave and say bye for now and bye to Richard too.
Bye.